Hi, my name is Leticia Garza. I am an assistant principal at Robstown Early College High School in Robstown ISD. I had the opportunity of interviewing Ms. Nina Conway, the Chief Financial Officer of Robstown ISD. Ms. Nina Conway has 29 years of experience with school finance, mainly in the areas of budget and bonds. She has additional experience in grant writing. Prior to our meeting, Ms. Conway prepared a packet of resources to guide us through the interview. She began our interview with a calendar of events to summarize the budget preparation process in the district. She explained the timeline. The first calendar date begins on January 23rd, where the board approves the budget calendar, followed by the activities that continue the week of February the 4th, where she distributes the budget worksheets to campus principals and departments, setting a deadline of March 1st for departments and April 5th for campuses. On March 8th, personnel requests are due to the Deputy Superintendent's office. In this request, campus principals and program directors must include new staff requests. On March 22nd, the Executive Cabinet meets. The Executive Cabinet consists of the Superintendent, the Deputy Superintendent, the Assistant Superintendents, and the Chief Financial Officer. They meet to review the personnel requests. Draft 1 of a budget workshop is held on May 13th with the school board. Draft 2 is held on June the 10th, and if needed, Draft 3 budget workshop will be held on July 8th. And on August 12th, the district will hold a public hearing to discuss the tax rate and budget board adoption. Ms. Conway left me with great advice. Among them was that we need to stay abreast and heavily involved in legislation action. A second advice was to always look at board policy to help guide us in our decisions. She provided me with copies of the legal board policy of the budget requirements, adding that it guides you to develop a timeline. She added that the budget has to be prepared or cost to be prepared by the superintendent, and the superintendent in turn assigns the Chief Financial Officer, which is Ms. Nina Conway, to prepare the budget. Ms. Nina Conway plays the most critical role in preparing the budget and ensures that it is prepared on or before August the 20th. She continued by explaining that any time that a person has a question, they should always use board policy for guidance, as it is easy to search through the district site. One of the biggest challenges we face as a district is trying to compete with neighboring districts with teacher salaries. House Bill 3 from the 86th legislature increased state funding to help decrease the burden in local taxpayers. This produced a net effect of $1.5 million. Although House Bill 3 only required districts to use 30% for salary increases for teachers, librarians, and counselors, Robstown ISD elected to use all of the funds to increase salaries in order to remain competitive with the Coastal Bend. Even with that increase, the district continues to be one of the lowest paying districts in the Coastal Bend. Robstown ISD's current budget is $35.7 million. Of the $35.7 million, the district uses $22.8 million to pay personnel salaries, which is about 64% of the overall budget. However, if we include interest and sinking, the district uses 74% of its budget to pay personnel. Ms. Conway explained that using 74% of the budget to pay personnel is an indication that our district is very efficient. And she further elaborated that most districts use 80 to 82% of their budget to pay personnel. When I asked her how the district could reduce the percentage of the budget dedicated to personnel salaries, she explained that because the district was so efficient, it was difficult. She explained that if we tried to decrease the number of teachers, that we have employed, that would have an impact in the classroom as the student-teacher ratio would increase. She reassured me that as a district, Robstown ISD is very efficient with staffing. The current tax rate for Robstown ISD is 1.5683. She further explained that the maintenance and operations, or M&O, is at 1.0683, and that the interest in sinking, or INS, which is used to pay off our debt for bonds, which is used to pay off her debt for bonds, is at 50 cents. She further explained that the 50 cents is almost an 11-cent reduction from the previous year because of House Bill 3. House Bill 3 requires that we lower our property tax and that the state would kick in the proceeds so that our rates would go. So overall, our rates went from 1.665 last year, which was prior to House Bill 3, to this year, which the current rate is 1.5683, which means that overall we had an 11% reduction. I asked a follow-up question asking how our tax rate compares to other districts. She explained that because we did a tax ratification election in 2014, at that time our tax rate was $1.17, which was the highest tax rate. However, she further explained that the neighboring districts also did the tax ratification. Overall, our overall tax rate is high because of INS, which we are at the maximum for INS as well. One of the most surprising information that I learned is the critical role that local geographic or economic factors play in the district's budget. I did not expect Walmart to be a large taxpayer in our district, since Walmart is actually not located in Robstown. It's actually located outside of Robstown. The biggest surprise was Permico, however. Permico is currently not with our district, however, it will be coming within the year. Okay? And to further explain, in December of 2018, Permico had an initial investment of $550 million, which they increased by an extra $150 million, giving it an overall total investment of $700 million. This will bring to the area 75 full-time jobs with a minimum salary of $60,000. Ms. Conway explained that our assessed value due to Permico will triple within the next 6 years, and that in turn this means that we will be receiving a lot of funding because of Permico. At this point, Robstown ISD is at $600 million in assessed value, and because of Permico, we will be adding $1 billion to that. In regards to M&O, they will be abated, which means they do not have to pay property taxes. However, the state controller will evaluate this will go to the state controller. The state controller will ensure that building a plant in our area is a good thing for our economy. And in turn, it will allow more money to kick into our budget. Overall, they will be paying us, or they will be paying the district, Robstown ISD, $8.4 million in the first year, and an additional 2 more checks before the 7-year period is over of another $8 million. On the INS side, they are not abated, so we will receive 50 cents. We will receive the 50-cent tax rate. Now, What this implies is that we could, as a district, decrease or reduce the tax rate down. However, the district has started a long-term study of what the district needs. For example, adding wings in some of the elementaries. This way, we can go to the voters before Permico finishes, before the 7-year period with Permico, so that we can add new bonds. And the good thing about this is that it's not going to cost the taxpayers any money, because Permico is basically going to pay for the bonds as they are adding new value to their rate. And this will allow the district to provide improvements within our facilities. In addition to new funds coming in because of Permico, we're also hoping that it helps increase our enrollment. It is important that we continue to monitor as Permico comes into our district, as we are hoping that this will in turn also increase our enrollment. So far at this point, the district has not provided us with any So far at this point, the city has not provided us with any projections of whether or not it will increase housing. However, we are hoping that developers will want to come in knowing that this plan is coming, and hopefully they will add additional subdivisions in Robstown. 13.84% of the district's budget is dedicated to administrative costs. Ms. Conway acknowledged that this is a little high, which she explained that it is not unusual for small districts to have a high percentage for administrative costs. She further explained that TEA would like for the percentage to be at about 11.51%. She added that we were actually able to lower it from the previous year with an amount of about $115,000, making our percentage drop almost 0.5%. And she elaborated that in order to reduce it, it was due to coding. And the reason it was due to coding is because the deputy superintendent was coded under function 41. However, most of the duties that the deputy superintendent does deals with curriculum and instruction, so she should have actually been coded 13. So, as Ms. Conway was explaining to me, it is very important that that the correct coding is labeled for administrators, specifically because in this specific case, it allowed the percentage to drop 0.5%. We extended our conversation in regards to coding and started discussing the coding of students and the role it plays on funding. In addition to the correct code, she added that it was necessary to code the students correctly because it helps our funding to help support the students. She added that in addition to the correct coding, we needed to get our students into the schools, as we struggle to bring students into the school, and ADA is one of the areas that we need to continue to work on. When I asked her to give me 3 to 4 examples of unfunded mandates, she explained that she found a document from the legislature and explained that there were over 100 unfunded mandates. Ms. Conway identified the dropout prevention strategies of costing the district about $300,000. The Disciplinary Alternative Education Program, also known as DAEP, cost the district approximately $150,000, and added that in addition to that, the truancy prevention also added an additional $150,000. A fourth unfunded mandate that Ms. Conway discussed was the 22-to-1 student ratio in kindergarten through fourth grade. She mentioned that it was huge, that if the state would allow the districts to increase the class size from 22 to 25, that alone could save the district over $300,000, which would account for approximately 1% of the overall budget. The interview with Ms. Nina Conway was very informative. Ms. Nina Conway did an excellent job in preparing prior to the interview, and I appreciate the fact that she made a great effort to prepare a presentation for me. Additionally, Ms. Conway made me feel very comfortable and tried to explain in detail the questions. We did face a few challenges as she had previously rescheduled our appointment multiple times. We did a couple of hit and misses scheduling our interview, as she has a well-loaded schedule. During this actual interview, her phone rang 2 times, once at the beginning of the interview and once during the middle of the interview. Additionally, she had a meeting scheduled right at 3 p.m., leaving us with a very tight schedule of 30 minutes with little room to ask extension questions. I would have liked to have had the opportunity to ask additional questions, specifically dealing with the Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas, or FIRST report. Our district increased substantially from the previous year. A particular indicator I would have liked to focus on was Indicator 10, which deals with the debt service coverage ratio being sufficient to meet the required debt service. In this particular indicator for 2017-2018 school year, the district received 0 out of 10 points. That specific school year, we were under a different leadership, which included a different chief financial officer. Ms. Conway joined the Robstown ISD family during the 2018-2019 school year. And in that specific indicator, Robstown ISD not only increased, we received 10 out of 10 points, which is the maximum amount of points. I would say overall this was an amazing experience. I value greatly her work and her role to help our district run efficiently. I've learned a great amount of knowledge from the budget preparation process to the critical role that businesses like Permico and Walmart play in the revenue available for a district, along with challenges that our district faces. As a superintendent candidate, I have learned that it is extremely important that I understand the role that M&O and INS plays in the district's budget, specifically the value that a company like Permico can add to our district. When I first learned about the additional funds that Permico would be adding to our district, the first thing that came to my mind was to decrease the rates for our taxpayers. The district, however, is anticipating the increase in revenue and has opted to do a study to evaluate our schools and use this increase to improve our facilities. However, in order to do so, we must first hold a bond election. In order to help pass this, we would also need to educate our taxpayers so that they can see what a great opportunity this is to help make needed improvements for our district. This fact alone has changed my entire view. Although the increase in revenue will increase within this year, we must continue to look beyond and evaluate the needs of the district.